Okay, now let's have a look at the shader version. The shader version is here to support other type of animals or characters. Once again, I'm gonna empty my scene, okay? Go in my content library and figures, people, Genesis. You have no, for yet, I don't know if I'm gonna to make that, but for now, you don't have any amazing skins for Genesis. But I'm gonna take David because I really like David. If you load a Genesis figure, you have the possibility to use the amazing skins, okay? So this is David, okay, and I can select. Let's have a look at what I am going to select. Okay, okay. I select the lip, nostril, skin, face, nipple, head, hip, neck, okay, torso, two fingernails, yes, arm, foot, forearm, hand, leg, two nails, not, okay, I can go to gums and then in a mouth, not the teeth but the tongue, not the elements of the eyes, okay. Okay, and for this one I'm going to in my products, okay, where you have installed your content, Genesis 2 male, female, materials, amazing skin, it doesn't matter male or female, and you have to go in the shader version and go and hit shader for skin parts, because these are the skin parts, okay, and you double click and it's gonna load for, okay, it won't change the UV map, it's just gonna change the way the way the shader is built, the way it will be calculated. So after that you go for cornea, press shader for cornea, iris, press shader for iris, lacrimal, shader for lacrimals, pupil, shader for pupils, sclera, shader for sclera, eyelash. Okay, it's a bit long, but after all the work I made on that, I couldn't make right immediately the Genesis version. I had to have a break. And okay, let's pose him. It's gonna be a shame, I think. He's gonna have a very feminine pose. Okay, it's pretty neutral finally. And we are going to load a light too. Let's say area, smooth area lights. Okay, where are my lights located? Okay, and let's frame this way and make a render of David 5 with the amazing skins on it. Okay, this is David with amazing skin. You see, it's rendering pretty fast, and just by applying the base shader, it's okay. But if you do that, you won't be able to use any of the other presets. You have to customize everything manually, okay? So to customize things manually, we are going to select, let's say, everything until number for in the mouth, I'm gonna take 2, and tongue, I'm gonna take 2, and change the hue. You want a warm tone for David, so you're gonna go for a rum color, okay? Since David is pretty pale at the beginning, it's better to increase that about around 30%. Just have a first look at what it's giving. So David is warmer. David is warmer than the previous David 1, okay? We can maybe make it a little bit more warm. So we are going to increase a little bit the saturation of the initial diffuse map. Okay, prefer him this way. And well, that's all. Actually, if you feel it's too yellow, you are going to forcing something more reddish, okay, reddish pinky. Okay, now David is reddish pinky, and if you want to go for something more blue, you have to go for something more blue. Maybe it's gonna be too cold, okay? Yeah, well, yes, he's a little bit too cold, so you can reduce the influence of the color change. The color change is the right one, but the influence is not good enough, and the skin is maybe not saturated enough. Okay, So this is how to change the color and saturation of color on the skin, even on Genesis figures. And we can, of course, change the value of the skin, meaning if the skin is bright or not. So let's say I want a warm skin, okay, not that, okay, this could be okay, pretty bright. So to have a pretty bright skin, I increase the value of it. So now this is really bright, really too much bright. So I'm going to decrease it. And if I want to have the skin pretty dark, what did I change? I've made a mistake. Sorry, I changed the saturation of the color instead of changing the value of it. Okay, now we are going for dark skin. Okay. This is a tan David. So I like the way the skin renders, but I'd like to have more specular, more highlights on that. So I'm going to hit here spec for specular because highlights are driven by specular. And I'm going to widely increase this. It renders fast, so you can, how do I say? You can, oh, it's still not enough. You can test things very fast. Okay, let's make it again. Okay, now it's got more specular features. You know, there are more highlights on the skin, and I also like to increase the subsurface scattering, and mainly the deep one, more deep surface scattering. It's gonna change the color because the subsurface adds to the base color. So more thickness, but not that much. No sheen. Okay, let's have a look at that. So I don't know if I had stopped the previous render. If I have not stopped it, we can have a look at the render editor. Do I have the two last ones? Okay, I can compare the primary and this secondary, which is the last one. Okay, you see, this is the skin only with the tone. Now you have increased specular and subsurface scattering, and you have something more realistic. And the specular color, okay, we can go for something more cold eventually. Normally this should be white, normally, but we are used to have, let's say, we're used to have a pretty blue light coming from the sky, and most people tend to put blue in specular. I'm going to reduce the size of the specular. Okay, this is the size of the highlights, and the way this color adds to the diffuse map. I increase the way this color adds to the diffuse map. Okay, I'm gonna try, and now you have something more, a more shiny skin. Okay, more glossy skin. This is how to apply that on David, and the changes that you make. I'm gonna save this in because I like save as scene David. What you do here with David, you can do this manual tooling on any figure, or you can use the provided options, but you cannot do that on Genesis. It's only for Genesis 2. As a short summary, you load your figure in the scene and you multiple select the surfaces using the surface selection tool, surface editor, and you double click on the shader that you want. And then once this is done, you use the filter here above to type hue, which will change the hue applied to the diffuse map, and the strength with which this hue is applied to the diffuse maps. You have also strong hue change, but this is applied to the diffuse plus subsurface scatterings plus specular. Okay, and this is more for fantasy skins, for instance. Okay, well, that's all. And you see, by hitting just this dial, you can change the color. But for human skin, it is recommended to leave it at 0. You can change the saturation, okay. You can set the saturation applied to the diffuse maps or the saturation applied to the final render. Whoa, he's taken too much sun. Okay, this is the saturation applied to the final render. You can go for almost black and white. Okay, are just slightly colored. I think this would be the just slightly colored, almost black and white. Okay, this is the post-process saturation, and this is the one applied at the end, and this is the one applied on the map. You can also go for low values, but you will keep the colors of your subsurface scattering. Okay, you keep the colors of the subsurface scattering. You see here, the red is the deep subsurface scattering, and the white is the specular. Alright? And so this was the hue, saturation, and the value of the skin. So avoid touching this one because it's just for special effect. Okay? This is a special effect. This is a special effect I don't want. This is for special effect. Or you can adjust the value of the diffuse maps which are used for the calculus, which is the initial diffuse maps. It's just that we are using colorimetric tools on that to change our hue, saturations, and value. Here is very bright, and here is pretty dark. Okay, see the difference. Okay. And so it was for the colorimetric tools, hue, saturation, and value. So you have always pre-process applied on the map, a post-process applied on the diffuse plus specular plus subsurface scatterings. And at the end you have, you may want to change the main subsurface scattering. This is the total amount, okay? And this drives the scatter color. And this drives the sheen color. You have the deep surface scattering. This drives the deep skin. Okay, this drives the deep sheen, which is kept at 0 because of an index of reflection at 1. Keep it at 0 because you have already enough sheen in the main subsurface scattering. But if you switch off the main subsurface scattering, you may want to add sheen from the deep subsurface scattering. Okay, and these parameters influence the scatter, and this is the total amount of deep subsurface scattering. So you can have very subsurfacey skins. Okay, and this is red because this and this are red, but you can do other things. For instance, let's I don't know. This could be okay, and this could be okay. Add more tint to that. And give another render. Okay, this is another type of render, but normally the deep surface scattering should be something pretty reddish, and that's why the basic loads with red values. Okay, prefer red, and this is better. This is strong red. What does it give? Okay, this is strong reddish, but you can change this, and you can also change the main subsurface scattering. And finally, the last, so you have hue, saturation, value, main subsurface scattering hitting main, deep subsurface scattering hitting deep, and here you just have to write specular, and you can increase the specular strength, okay, and the specular size, horizontal and vertical, and the way the specular tints the skin. Don't go too high, otherwise, because of the way the color wheel is built, it can change the color. Maybe, okay, this is the strongest specular we can have with this size. Well, that's was all. That's pretty all you have to configure manually. So, hue. For the hue, for the color base, saturation, for the saturation of this color, value, for the brightness, the intensity of it, main, for main subsurface scattering, deep, for deep subsurface scattering, and spec for specular. And you can configure all this separately. At the end they will add, okay, some of them multiply a little bit together, but at the end you will just fill as if adds. That's all. Thank you for watching this presentation on how to use amazing skin on other generations of figures, and I hope that you will have a lot of fun with it. If you have questions, there is a topic on DAS forums, and you can ask your questions here, and I answer pretty fast. See you, have a nice day, be creative, and run the fast. Bye bye.